What if I tell you you can create this entire ingestion orchestrator pipeline in Microsoft Fabric, which invokes a metadata-driven ingestion pipeline with all these different activities. You can, and it also creates variable libraries. It also creates certain notebooks. It also has a warehouse control table where you can, orchestrate your entire metadata-driven orchestration, and it brings data from a SQL database back into Microsoft Fabric Lakehouse. So all these things we can generate with AI using Microsoft Fabric, the Microsoft MCP server using the Azure CLI and so on. And I'm going to show you exactly how you can do that with the help of Claude Code today. But before you do that, welcome back to the BI Masters. It's a pleasure to have you here. And if you're new to the channel, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you are already subscribed, please don't forget to watch this video to the end. I'll show you exact step by steps on how to do that. And without any further delays, let's begin with the video. All right. Before we get into how we kind of create the metadata-driven framework, I just want to talk to you about what it means and how it helps in any of our process that we do in Fabric. So traditionally, when we are looking at creating any pipelines, and if you want to add new tables, we have to edit the pipelines. If there is any schema changes that happen, the pipeline fails, we have to redo and update the schema mapping. There is no data quality enforcement, watermark tracking and audit sometimes becomes very manual for us. And scaling up to multiple tables means we are editing the problem. This has always been the traditional problem that we all have suffered in our projects. But the solution with meta-driven framework says you have automated SQL tables. There is no pipeline edits. It auto detects the schema drifts. It looks for data quality, look for the load, like entire load tracking by audit columns and so on. It automatically sends you emails via with the full stats. Typically, the framework works on multiple, two cores. One is your lakehouse where the data layer is stored, and one is the warehouse, which is your control table, which is the control layer. In the control layer, you will have all your configuration tables and audit tables stored in, and in the data layer, you will have all your actual data that moves in, including the schema drifts and evolutions that happen. Pipelines, you will have a pipeline orchestrator, which is your master pipeline that will, invoke the meta-driven ingestion pipeline, which consists of multiple activities like lookup for each copy data, incremental, notebooks, and so on. So the orchestrator will always invoke your meta-driven pipelines and so on. Typically, this is the standard flows when you ingest data. This is specifically for the bronze, which we'll be doing as a part of our exercise today. We'll have a SQL database, copy the data into Lakehouse, and delta table gets evolved. So in parallel, all these data quality notebooks will run. It will find out, if there's any anomalies and so on, and email notifications will be sent to you. Schema drift, again, we will looking at how the schema drift is handled as a part of its code, and data quality for uniqueness, integrity, validation, the string matching, pattern matching is something that we'll be looking at as a part of our process. So eventually you will move from more of a traditional based approach to a metadata driven approach, and we'll leverage AI to do that. And I trust me, it is very useful. I've tried it by myself, and this is what the results that I've achieved. It just took me a couple of minutes to get the entire pipeline, uh, running. Obviously, building the pipeline via AI took me a couple of hours, like I would say, couple of hours. It was more around 70 to 80 minutes. But execution, once it was all set, it just hardly took me a few minutes to execute the pipeline. So key takeaways of the framework is always about, it's completely scaled. So, you have to no configuration at scale, you have catalog, you just run, execute, that's it. Resilience is there, everything that changes are done, it gets auto-logged, schema drift is managed, data quality is embedded, and DevOps ready versions are also available. So this is how we kind of look at it. And now let's look into how we build it through. So this is our fabric, and what we are going to do is in fabric we are going to create a new workspace here, and in the workspace we'll be leveraging AI to create this entire framework for us. And I'll show you step by step. So before that, what we have is we have Visual Studio Code. Within Visual Studio Code, we have the Fabric Studio. If you see here, Fabric Studio is linked to all your Fabric workspaces, connections, deployment pipelines, and so on. How you can get the Fabric Studio? This is where I have the extensions, and in the extension, if you search for Fabric, you will see the Fabric Studio and you see the MCP server. We will be leveraging a combination of like Claude Code within Visual Studio, and then we'll connect to Microsoft Fabric. And as a part of this, we'll be also leveraging this metadata driven MD file that I have. This is my specs, which I'll be passing on to Claude. And with this spec, it will kind of execute everything. So it will look at all my environment variables. I've passed in my connections that I have, and it will look at this 12 steps. Well, it will look at the prereqs, create control tables, discover catalogs, activate the tables, create libraries, build metadata driven ingestion pipelines, build notebooks, build orchestrator pipelines, send emails, and trigger end to end, and you'll have these entire things. Estimate time for this is 75 minutes, and I would not want you to stay for all the 75 minutes because I'll be cutting down the video into pieces, and I'll only show what's relevant. But as we go along to that, let's do one thing. Let's start with Claude Code, and I'm going to minimize the screen. So this is my fabric here. So if you see, there is no workspace, like there are multiple workspace, but for this demo I want to create a proper workspace. So I come into Claude Code, I close this MD file, I don't need this anymore, and I will kind of come here and say connect to my Microsoft Fabric environment and create a new workspace. It's called, I would name this as Fabric Demo. So this is my workspace called Fabric Demo that I have here, and assign a capacity. I have the capacity name for which is F4 to this, and make sure I am the admin. So once you put this to Claude, I'm going to split this up in two different windows. So I have the first window here, and I have my Fabric window here. And yes, it is asking me to, checking for the login, and yes, I would say allow for all projects. And now it will start working around that. I'm going to minimize the screen here. Let me delete this. So this is here. So let's see how this works now. It has found the capacity. It is creating the workspace. And now let's look at it. That it is done creating or not. So it is looking at the workspace assignment. It has created the Fabric workspace as well. Done. So this is my workspace here. So let's look here. So if I refresh the screen, and I come here, and this is my Fabric demo workspace. So I'll just pin this on the top. Now it is done. Let me look at the workspace settings. So workspace type. Yep, Fabric after XQF4. This is perfect. So it has assigned the capacity to this. And now this workspace that we have, we'll be leveraging this workspace now to create the rest of the piece. So what we'll do is, first thing, what we will try to do is we'll create the lake house and the warehouse. So what we'll do is let's prompt it to create the lake house, and I'm going to say now can you create a lake house, this, which is my data layer, and also add description to the lake house, and let's also create a warehouse. Create a warehouse, which is my warehouse control, which is my ETL or my control tables. Add the descriptions accordingly. Now, within this workspace, let's see how it looks like, whether it creates it here, because I've not prompted which workspace I wanted to create because it's created a workspace here. If you see, it started creating the lakehouse here automatically. Now, this is super quick because you need to provide this, and we need to see whether it does a schema enabled or not because we have not provided it schema enabled. So I can just type it and say later on whether the lakehouse is schema enabled or not, and let's see what it does. Right. So both are created. This is perfect. Can you let me know if the lakehouse is schema enabled? or if not, create, recreate it, recreate it with schema-enabled. So let's see what it has to say. Well, this is very good. So because this all these things take time, but we can kind of look at it and you can leverage AI to do this. So this becomes very faster in a way. That's not schema enabled. Perfect. So it will delete the lake house now. If you see here, it deleted it, and now it will recreate the lake house. And it will ask me to do it. Yes, I see. So because when the lakehouse is deleted, right, we are going to provide it the same name. So it is just we're going to wait for that name to be freed up, and once that name is free, it will then recreate. So this is very important because the AI understands how things work and how much time it may take. So let's give it a few minutes, a few seconds to see how it works. So in the meantime, what we'll do is we had this MD file that I showed you. So I'm going to attach this for now, and I'm going to attach it here. So it recreated this. Now what I'm going to do is, by the time this creates, I'm going to prompt it. So Lakehouse is created. This is all attached. Perfect. Uh, can you look at this MD file attached and follow the steps to create a end-to-end working metadata driven ingestion framework that brings in data from my SQL Server into Fabric. So one of the key things here, what I've done also before I execute this, I've created certain connections. So if I go to my connections here, I go to my settings, manage connections and gateways, I have created a connection. So when you're building, working metadata driven frameworks and you want to bring in data from, your databases, it's very important to create a connection in Fabric first before you use AI. So what I've done is I've created a connection here, and with this connection, this is my connection details. And I've used the authentication for my ID, but you can always use a service principal to do that, which is the best practice always. But for this demo, I'm going to use OAuth2. And similarly, I have a connection for Outlook, so I have an Outlook activity. Here is my Outlook activity. This will help me to send the email automatically. I'm using MFA as well here. I can even use a service principal to do the same thing. And also for pipelines, invoking the pipelines and so on, there's another pipelines connections that I've created to do that. So this is a pipeline connection, and within this I create a Fabric pipeline and I authenticate. Same thing, you have to use the service principal. It's easy to create connections. How you can do that is I can go down to new and connection here. I can go to cloud. I can put a connection name ABC, and I can say what connection I want. So if I in the drop down I can look at pipelines. So if you see, it shows me Fabric data pipelines. I can also do a SQL server. So if I do SQL, delete this, I'll have MySQL is in Fabric, Azure Synapse and so on. So this is how we can create connections. So I already have these connections. Let me discard the changes, go back to the workspace here, and now let's execute this metadata file. And now from here, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to start a timer. So let me open up a timer here, and let's see how much time it actually takes to create. So I have a timer. I'm going to bring the timer here. I'm going to keep it here, and then let's start, and let's hit the timer. And I'm going to turn off my camera now, and let's see how much time it takes to create the entire metadata framework, and we'll see at the end how it looks like. So what I've done here also, I've given it some wrong instructions in MD file as well, such as data types and so on. So what Fabric is now doing is the Claude is now doing, it is understanding the framework and writing the scripts, but it's also at the same time telling me that it uses, which Fabric's warehouse support. So it's going to adapting by itself to the supported subset of the data. So this is very crucial. So it's not a perfect MD file. I have just written things and I've asked Claude to build a file for me. And we are looking at all these steps that it is going to create. Yeah, let's continue. So it has created these tables. So if you go to the warehouse control and let's see in here, let me just move this to the top here. Let's go to schemas. There's a meta schema here, and under tables, it has created all these tables automatically. So if you look at any tables, let's look at the table config table. It has created all the columns that's required. So I can just select top 100. So it has all these tables, but they're blank. So obviously once the data feeds in, it will start creating it. So that's good. So tables are being created, and let's wait and watch what more it starts creating. And I'm going to move this, and let's continue. Now if you see here, it discovered all the columns and tables that was there, but it also cataloged the data which is not required. So it has done step 4, and now it is creating all these metadata types that's required, and we'll wait for the data to move in. Now if you see here, it created the variable library also for us. So if you look at the variable library, so if you see, it created a source connection ID, warehouse ID, lakehouse ID, staging path, and all the strings for the audit. So this is really good. So as you go ahead step by step, it basically starts creating all the elements for us. Also for the data, it might have created these configuration tables. So if we come back to the configuration table, it says 48 rows and so on. So if I select the top rows here, it has got all the tables, and it has kept the 5 tables that is required as active. So these are the tables which are active. These are the tables it will load. 0 means it will not load the tables. These are incremental tables and so on. So that's one. We'll also look at the type mapping. So if we close this, let's look at the column table. So column configuration table. So if I query the column configuration table, it will look at the column IDs, source table, source schema, then column name, SQL type, and so on. This is good. And the type mapping table that we see here, this is where it is going to map the types. So if we select the top 100 here, again, it's looking at the source type. What is the parquet type? Spark type. So it is, applying everything that's required automatically. If you see here, so it is providing the cache, so binary, geography, what it is configuring. So this is really good. So as it progresses, uh, it's coming up to a place the way we expect it to work. So let's continue our Claude to see how it creates and how it works. So if you see here, it is creating the notebooks. So we have the data quality notebook, merge to delta, and so on. So it is working on creating and deploying all these notebooks as we progress. So once this process is complete, let's give it a few more minutes to see, and we can open the notebook and see what it did. Notebooks are deployed. Perfect. So if I open this data quality notebook, so if you see here, it has all the DQ rules. And so if I minimize this here, so if you see, it has provided all these things. And at the end, we can ask it to clean, or I would say, provide markdown, collect proper comments, and so on. But it is doing its job in creating all these notebooks. So that's really good. Similarly, if we look at uh, the workspace, and let's look at the mouse to delta. So it merged all the batch stage, batch and data tables. So this is perfect audit schema and everything. So it is using parameters wherever it requires, which is good. So I guess later on we can take this and bring it from field configuration table as well. So we can do that for parameters. Once this is complete, let's see how it works. Right. So if you see, we've already crossed 30 minutes mark. So and it has created the notebooks as we saw. It is now creating the pipeline. So if you see meta-driven pipeline, then let's open this and let's see what it is creating. So it is now validate everything orchestrated end to end. So let's see. So see, it is created a load run for each tables, copy, run. It is working perfectly. So it will validate as we speak, but it is coming up to that space what we expected to run. So let's see how much more time. So we are almost 32 minutes. We had planned it for around 70 minutes, so we are almost 50% of the time. And let's see how it progresses. Let's say pipeline is running. So let's look at the monitor tab to see if there's any pipeline that's running or not. Nothing yet. So let's see. Let's give it a few more minutes. Okay, it ran audit by itself internally. So let's give it a few more minutes. So we are around on the 40-minute mark, and in 40 minutes it has created all these tables, and it has created the orchestrator also for us. Let's see what the orchestrator has. It has created the email failure success audit invoking of this pipeline. If I click on this, it opens up this pipeline for us. So this is already looking good, is what I expect. Uh, and it has brought in some data. I think so. It is running the things at the backend, but we can look at our Fabric Lakehouse and then see is there any data that it has pulled in. Let's see. It could be a thing that let's look at the monitor as well. Is there any specific activity? Let me, yeah, so if you see the in-progress pipelines that are there, it's a data quality notebook and this notebook is executing. So when Claude executes this, it triggered the pipeline as well. So it is now running the pipeline. And if you look at this pipeline, let's see. So when you trigger the pipeline, it becomes red here, and it will tell us where at which stage this pipeline is here at this point in time. Okay, so this is my warehouse. Yeah, so everything is succeeded. See, all these activities are succeeded. And if I look at my tables here, it did ran the new records as well. So it's good. So it's executed, I would say. Orange table script. So on this step, so it executed properly. But now the question is, since I'm here and I'm on a monitor tab, nothing is in progress. I want to see why my Mail has not yet arrived. Nothing in here. Okay. Nothing in here as well. So let's see. Right. So let's give it a few more minutes. It's almost doing everything end to end. And let's see. I have a demo. It is confirming the email delivery. Okay, let's look for some emails. We can look where it is sending the email. That's one of the most important things in the pipeline. So look at the orchestrator. Let's see. It should send the email to me only. I just want to see where it is sending the email to. Yeah, it is sending to me only. Object. So the activities look fine to me. Pipeline fail and it is a pipeline success. It looks fine. Let's see. But I can see all the tables now, which is promising. What I can do is let me open the SQL Server Management Studio as well. Database. Ask me to authenticate. Yep, this is the database I was talking about. This is the database I'm connected to, and it has all these tables here. So these are all the tables. So it basically might have brought in, basically looked at all these tables and then brought them back here into Fabric from the configuration that we have. So if I also look at what the staging contains, the staging brought in some intermediate tables for watermarks. Yep. And then we have the bronze, which is the and this is, see, if you see all the data here, I can see all the data here. So that is cool. Also, let's look at the warehouse control because the pipeline is executed, so it might have put in some the audit logs as well. So let's look at the audit log also in the meta log audit. Very, let's see. So see, it has brought in the audit log also. How many records read, record succeeded, failed, no data, succeeded. This is load start, load end, watermark. This is cool. So it started logging also. And we can take this and then spin our Power BI report on top of this at the end. So let's see later on. I'll discard changes, go to the Fabric demo. So we are almost to the mark of 50 minutes of this exercise. Let's see. So it's looking for an email, sending out the email to me. That's the only activity that's pending. So let's give it a few more minutes. So I did receive an email of a success. Let me bring that email to you. So if you see, when the pipeline was successful, it triggered an email to me here with this fabric success, table attended, schema drift events, run failed, and so on. So this is very structured. In fact, I like this. So it's a success, and that is good. We're getting closer. We're getting closer to the 70 minutes mark. Let's see whether we touch that in 70 minutes or whether we go above 70 minutes. All right, this is perfect. So it is built, running, completed. It created the pipeline, the metadata-driven pipelines, activities, notebooks, variable libraries, lakehouse warehouses, looked at all the records. So that's perfect. And it also deviated from, some of the elements. So it also gave me a correction that, warehouse DDL rewritten, watermark columns corrected, notebook code rewritten, then, replaced by if condition, it replaced data quality rule. So this is exactly what I wanted because I have just given it a very generic thought in my MD file, which I posted. And now, email success is there. Received the email success and overrides the mode. So now let's do a new thing. And I say, can you now trigger the pipeline? So now can you trigger the pipeline and add 10 tables to it? And now rerun the entire pipeline again and provide me 10 tables, full load followed by some two tables incremental, and provide me how much time will it take, how much time it takes to execute the pipeline end to end, and that's it. So let's see, we are just asking you to trigger the pipeline one to end, full load, and some two tables end to end. Now it's going to pick up all the tables that's required. So let's go to the warehouse. So let me allow, but we are able to complete that in around 55 minutes. So the first set is done in 50 minutes. So the 70-minute benchmark that we had, that is done. This is the additional step that we're looking at. So with the emails and everything, I'm just going to rerun the pipeline, and let's look at monitoring this pipeline. And it is going to look for this set, and then this set of 10 tables, and then it's going to take and do these two invoice tables as incremental. So let's see. This is really getting better, and how AI you can leverage with your pipelines. That's very helpful. Right. So here, if you see, the pipeline is executing as we look at this, and it has a couple of activities that are succeeded, and there are a couple of staging activities in progress. So within the for each, it has put in all the tables in parallel. So it is executing all these tables in parallel here, and some tables are heavy, so there's one last table left. So if I click on this, so it'll open up the pipeline details, like the activity details. So succeeded. So it's here. So all these tables are succeeded. So this is the merging data. So merging notebook is currently being done. So we are here. This is succeeded. Now it is on this merge. See this icon here? That is the merge. So it refreshes continuously. So the things are. So this is looking very good. So let's see how much time it takes to rerun the entire pipeline for just 10 tables. But this is full load and half of them are incremental. So we have to bear this in mind. And also this is a very low capacity. So obviously if the capacity increases, you'll have better cores and better speed. So this is doing a lower capacity. That's why the time would be a little bit more than it is generally expected. If you're on F64, it will be faster. I'm on a F4, which is almost 20% of what F64 may offer. Not even 20%. If I do F64, 6 is 10%, more than 10%. It's 7 to 8% of what the power of, F64 would be. But if you see, the table ingestion is happening quite fast. So it has just ingested the tables almost in a minute or two. So not much time it did take. So that's really good. So I can close this. I can get my monitor workspace again. And then, yep. So this is in progress. So see, as activities come in, we see this here. But this is good. Let's see whether we are able to finish it right off in time or not. So we have received a success email finally for all the tables. If I see here, success run 3, and this is the run ID, succeeded 17 tables, 300,000 records, DQ rules evaluated, and 662 seconds. So this is good. So it ran in almost 662 seconds, which is 662 divided by 60 seconds. This is like 11 minutes. So 11 minutes is not bad. Obviously, if we look at, creating like on a more capacity, more number of tables, the process should work exactly fine. So, yep. So this is finally, verifying everything, but that's good. Let me refresh this, and all the activities are finished. Nothing is in progress. And if I look at the tables now, if I go to my Fabric demo, and if I look at my warehouse control, open the Explorer, and if I look at my schema here, so it gave it the process is completed. So it gave me 200,000 records incremental, sales is this, and then rest of them are the full records. So that is perfect. So this is the number of rows, run tables that it did, and this is really good. So if I look at my logs now, not the views, the tables, and if I look at my load audit, and let me select do a top 10, top 100 of this. So yep, it has captured all the run IDs. If you see the run ID 3 here, it has now more tables in full and incremental. This is really good. Succeeded this time. New watermark. So it is capturing everything as expected. And this is my variable for the ingestion view for the ingestion plan. If I just select top 100 from this, the source schema, source table. This is my plan. Source schema, source table, target table, incremental, watermark column, table sequence, primary key columns, and source query. So it also captures the query. So if you see, it captures the query also as a part of my ingestion plan. So this is really very good. And this is how you can, go ahead and create your own ingestion frameworks using AI. And this is very helpful when you're going to do a full-blown process. And all you can do is, you can go and, next steps are for me to just go and update the descriptions if there are any. So I can just go and quickly check. So there's no description here. I can ask, Claude to update the description for all of those. And also if I go to the notebook, I can also ask it to do the notebook comments. But these are the very last steps at the end that you can do once it's complete. And I can just tell Claude. But as I do that, if you really like the video, please don't forget to subscribe. If you're new to the channel, please watch other videos. There are a lot of other videos that I've done. Please like this video if you really like how AI can leverage your timing, or AI can help you in increasing your productivity. So with that, that's it from my end for this week. Thank you guys. Thank you so much once again. You have a lovely rest of the day.